Welcome to Weekly Movie Update. Let's start by, I guess, bringing up the Emmys. The Emmy nominations came out, and I honestly don't care that much about the Emmys. Only thing I can say is that I think We Crashed should have gotten a nomination. That was a pretty good show on Apple TV. Jared Leto and Hathaway both did a good job. That's really all I got. I was much more interested. There's a story. Look up a trailer for something called We Met in Virtual Reality. It's on HBO Max, and it looks creepy as shit. It's essentially a documentary filmed in the metaverse. I can't even really tell you full on what the metaverse is. Like, I feel like I get a grapple on it. It's in my head. It's I guess a space where people log on. They pretty much create an avatar. They have the headset on, and it's kind of like the most basic version of Ready Player One. And people interact with their avatars. They're able to go and do stuff. I guess you can go to like anything. I guess you can buy houses, buy real estate. You can go to bars, things like that. And it's just talking about connection through. I'll probably check it out, but just this whole idea of normalizing, creating essentially like this whole Second Life type thing, I am just not into that. And it seems like the documentaries are very sympathetic to it. And I feel like a lot of people that really think about this coming to the movie are going to be just already decided on kind of their own ethical standing of this. And it just feels a little odd, but we'll see. Give me your thoughts on that. Okay, Monty Norman died, the composer of the James Bond theme, which was sad to hear. Great theme, one of the themes, not by John Williams, that's been made over the last 75 years that I think is just, instantly recognizable. Huge part of the culture. It's become even more than just a soundtrack. It's just kind of like an instinctual thing that we all know and love. So sad to see him go. One of the bigger stories, so Mickey Rourke this week slammed Tom Cruise for being irrelevant. He said that he does the same thing over and over again, saying he's played the same character for 35 effing years. I think he is irrelevant in my world, is what he said. So I'm confused with someone like Mickey Rourke saying this because I don't know, this feels like a play for attention because Mickey Rourke hasn't really done anything all that fantastic. He did The Wrestler. I think he was also in that, what was the name of that kind of like Greek movie that he was in a while back? It was by like Tarsem Singh or something, I forget. But Mickey Rourke is, I would say, very irrelevant. This feels just kind of like a desperate plea for attention. In terms of the claim itself, America, I think, is specialized in creating the movie star who is typecast into one particular role and kind of just does that again and again and again at a very high level. I don't think that Tom Cruise could really be called irrelevant. He is the star. He is carrying the number one movie at the box office right now, meaning that people around the world are wanting to go and see his movie again and again and again. So irrelevant seems like an ill term to use for Tom Cruise. But I do get that you could cast him in a light of doing the same thing over and over. Feels a little cynical. He did do Collateral not too long ago. I think he should probably do more stuff like that. Jack Reacher, kind of the same type of thing, but I mean, I get it. Overall, I don't think the statement really has a ton of credibility, although I think that not really even the worst situation Tom Cruise is in. I don't think he's in a bad situation. I don't think that he is... I don't think he has gotten himself in a place where he's irrelevant at all, to say the least. Okay, then there's an old movie that's now getting a sequel. I don't know if you guys have heard of this one called Orphan. I think it came out around 2009. Whenever I saw it when it first came out, so I was like 13, and the twist in it was like, what the shit? I haven't seen it since then, so if I'm watching it now, it's probably going to be like, yeah, that's pretty obvious. But it's a cool movie. I thought it was a cool movie at the time. Another one is coming out called Orphan First Kill. It's going to come out in August. There's not a trailer for it. I don't think there's a trailer for it. But it looks... I would probably go see it in the theater. Give me your thoughts on that. I would probably go see that one in the theater. Okay, a little more of the substantial news. Megalopolis is going to start filming later this year in Georgia. So this is the Francis Ford Coppola production. He says he's been working on it for a long time. He's working on the script for a very long time, and it's a huge budget in like the $100 million range. He's getting people like Oscar Isaac, I believe Scarlett Johansson. I might be wrong about that. And he's getting Adam Driver, getting a lot of heavy hitters. It's kind of it's defined as a type of Roman type of story. Think about Empire in terms of the Romans, in terms of the characters that were at play back in that day. But it's a story that takes place in a not so distant future New York City. First of all, in terms of the idea, I love that. I love taking stories that are working with that level of scale in terms of structure, in terms of scope, and putting them in the world of New York City. Absolutely love New York City. That's where I live. I love it. I don't think that New York City has gotten a lot of boost in cinema recently. There's just not a lot of places that really, go back to the types of... Honestly, I know people don't like her writings, but something like Ayn Rand, who really fell in love with New York, and the art that she created really kind of bolstered itself with the power that New York offers. I don't think a lot of movies do that anymore. Something like Dark City is the type of story that I think kind of takes the ominous, the power of New York City and kind of build it into their world. Francis Ford Coppola is saying that he's going to do that, and the fact that he's talking about this being a movie that kind of deals with the scale that you would imagine the Roman Empire being part of. I love that setup. The problem is, Francis Ford Coppola, if you look at his track record over the last 2 decades, kind of sucks. The Rainmaker, not bad. He went on to do, obviously, things like Twix. He went on to do Youth Without Youth, which I know some people really like. I feel like it's a type of movie that whenever you're 13, 14, 15, and you're realizing movies are more than just the Transformers type movies, you latch onto something like that, and you're like, wow, movies, they really can do something. But there's not really anything in that movie. It's very indulgent. Twixt is very indulgent. What was that other movie that he made around that same time that was just really terrible? Twixt in particular was very, very bad. Really looked like he kind of just lost the ability to hire a decent cinematographer. Oh, wait. Oh, it was the black and white one. Metro? It was something like that. Not terrible, but still, just like, it's a type of movie where you like Francis Ford Coppola, you watch it, and you're like, okay, there's something there. But I'm just worried. He's funding it himself, which means that there are a lot of studios that didn't see anything behind the project. Now, Francis Ford Coppola has, made his name by putting his self on the line for projects that studios don't want anything to do with. So that doesn't necessarily count him out of the race. But also, it's just different. Like, there's a reason that Tarantino is saying that he's going to leave after his 10th movie, because I think he makes a good point. Watch directors as they get older. They don't get better. They get stale. It's just... they're much more conservative, not necessarily in the risks that they're taking, but just in the way that they go about doing things and the way they go about telling stories. And I think that's kind of that's what I'm worried about here. Look, I would love to be proved wrong, but if I'm putting my chips down, it's not going to be that this is really going to be a great movie. But okay, give me your thoughts on that. Moving on, I like this one. So Amber Heard has been putting forward a lot of appeals to say, essentially, so much was done terribly in the trial. Certain evidence was not allowed that should have been allowed. She said at one point, they put the wrong juror. They put the wrong juror up on in the jury stand. And so therefore, whenever we first were selecting the jury, the day that we were actually there, the same person wasn't there. So we need a mistrial. The judge essentially now has come out and denied all of Amber Heard's motions to overturn the verdict, essentially saying, you lost. You're going to have to... First of all, I would be terrified at the idea of that story. I didn't really even talk about it on 5 Minute Critic. There's a spectacle to it and a scandal to it, which is, fun. But it also feels, at the end of the day, like there's nothing really there. Like, it's just a sad story that it's not going to get you anything. The memes were very funny, but I think that's about it. So I'm happy that Amber Heard is not going to get another chance in court. She's had her day in court. Did not go too well. Okay, 2 more stories here. I guess I'll do the one that's at the headlining the show. So Armie Hammer, to catch everyone up on how he fell from grace, Armie Hammer of Call Me By Your Name, of the Winklevoss twins in Social Network. He also remember, he has been in the game of acting for a very long time. He comes from a very rich family. His father is something like an oil tycoon, I believe. So a lot of money in his family. He, around, I think 2020, I think it was around in the times of COVID, there were images circulating online of women that he had talked to, girlfriends, flings, things like that. And he had essentially told these women things like, I want to taste your blood. I want to cut off a piece of your skin and taste it. They're like, oh, I want to taste you. And they'd be like, oh my gosh. And then he'd be like, no, I mean like taste you. I actually would like to fillet a small piece of your flesh. Like the Hannibal Lecter type shit. And so he did what, so many people, whenever they are falling from grace, do. He just kind of took a step back. He's not in the limelight. He is willingly not in the limelight. He's saying, I'm going to go. And I think he, I don't know if Whittier even said he was going. He just packed up. There were pictures of him packing up and leaving his place in L.A. And so then he disappeared. He did the thing that so many people do whenever they, are wanting to get back at some later date. They disappear. And that's fine. I mean, I don't think anyone's necessarily been missing Armie Hammer. He was in Death on the Nile. I didn't even see that. It did not look good. Didn't sound like people enjoyed it. So, yeah, he's doing his time in jail, wherever. But it's come out recently. We might not be seeing Armie Hammer again because he is now at the Cayman Islands selling timeshares. It seems like an older couple was there, and they got like a pamphlet that was like, buy one of these timeshares, and it was Armie Hammer's photo as the rep. And so then they like sent it to their daughter, and I was like, oh my god, is that like Armie Hammer the cannibal? And he is. He's got like a cubicle job. He's in a cubicle in the Cayman Islands selling timeshares. As far as fall from graces go in the whole kind of Me Too movement that's been going on, and his is, I don't know how many people could say Me Too from drinking your blood and filleting pieces of your flesh. But I think it's just funny. I think it's a funny fall from grace. We'll see what happens, but look up the photos online of Armie Hammer just kind of being spotted. That is just such a weird before and after. I mean, good for him for keeping the physique still, I guess, of a Hollywood star. But, man, normally you go from selling timeshares to then being in Hollywood. But that one is sad. Like, even Kevin Spacey, I don't think is doing that bad right now. Last main story before kind of a few casual reviews. Lord of the Rings of Power has released its first full trailer. So, in terms of thoughts on it, I think I'm intrigued. I feel like this is the first time where you can actually say, okay, what do you feel like? Are you hyped? I am intrigued. I think that it's going to do very well if it sticks close to the Tolkien lore. And from the looks of it, I think it might actually do that. The thing I'm more interested in is this going to really pay off for Amazon? The amount of money that they're spending on this, it's $450 million a season. They've already committed to 2 seasons. So they're funding this to the tune of $1 billion. And look, Amazon is going to be able to bounce back from this. $1 billion to Amazon, they're actually not going to be terrible in doing that. I think it's going to be more of the streaming wars conversation. Is this going to do big gains for them? The Lord of the Rings crowd is a huge crowd. It is a devoted crowd. Even just the Tolkien crowd, if you just go off the novels, very dedicated crowd. So that means if you do a good job here, then the gamble has paid off. You are going to, I think, be seen as one of the heavy hitters. You're probably going to go a bit beyond HBO Max or level with HBO Max. You're going to scare the shit out of Netflix because Netflix is just not doing great over the last year, I would say. Doesn't look like they're going to be doing good for probably a few years. And Amazon, I think while Apple did a good job in getting an Oscar, if they are able to succeed in utilizing the Tolkien story with the fan base, then I think that's going to do huge in the respectability for Amazon, huge in terms of influence that Amazon Prime is going to have as a streamer. If it does bad, then I think they'll still be in the game, but this is going to be, I think they're going to be even farther behind the 8 ball. Now, there are a lot of subscribers with Prime, and Prime Video comes with it. So it doesn't have really, I think, the respect that the other streamers do because it kind of comes along as a, addition to that subscription. But if it fails, I think Amazon is still going to be seen as the streamer who has got a lot of money to spend but doesn't know how to spend it. They don't know what to do with it. The stories, though, of the amount of links they're going to get this thing made, like whenever they were writing it back in like the beginning of 2019, people had to. The writer's room was in like a locked room with a security guard outside taking fingerprints of people to get in. There was tape covering the doors, like no sunlight got in. They didn't want anyone to be able to see anything about the creation of this show. So we'll see. But yeah, if it does a good job, then I think in terms of influence, Amazon is going to go through the roof respectability. If it fails, then I think that Amazon is going to be seen as, every now and then you guys do something cool. People like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. It's not, but they're just, I don't think they'll be seen as, they don't have their shit together. I think they'll be seen as people that just don't have their shit together. You're spending $1 billion on something that's just not really working. So I think that's an interesting thing to keep track of. Few things I've been watching recently. Leanne and I started Loot on Apple TV. That is a terrible show. Do not watch that show. That is one of the most pig-headed, just kind of like tone-deaf shows. It's really, really bad. Hacks. We started Hacks, which I think is very fun. I feel like HBO does a good job of maybe taking, and look, it's about comedians. I'm happy it does not get political. It feels like a good representation of what it would actually be like to be an aging comedian. I feel like HBO also does a very good job of making larger-than-life characters very human. They don't go too far with the dialogue in terms of kind of just giving up what everyone is thinking. I feel like it's a solid comedy. I don't think it's necessarily going to be something that if you watch it, you're going to remember it for years and years. But I think that if you're looking for something good to watch right now, something that is a comedy, something that is not really going to take up tons and tons of your attention, I think that's a solid one. And then Irma Vep, still, I'm about halfway through it now on HBO Max. If you want some, I would say one of the better shows it's on right now. It's essentially a TV, the TV show is a extended remake of the movie from the 1990s, and it's about the making of a movie. So, and I think it does a good job of kind of getting that meta feel of we're making a TV show about a movie being made, or we're making a TV show about a TV show, and you can tell if you do a little research in how Irma Vep the movie, how Irma Vep this show are being made, that you can tell that it's kind of talking about everyone making the show itself. It's a cool show. It's also got a very casual vibe, but it does demand your attention still. Slick, stylish, fun, and I'd recommend it if you're into more of the art scene, more into the more into movies. I think that'd be a fun show to watch. All right, that's all we got today. So thank you very much. Put any stories in the comments that you would like discussed, and subscribe to 5 Minute Critic for future updates on reviews and movie news.